Hi, Peter. Thanks for joining me for another story.
Yeah, good to see you, Steve.
Good to see you. We're talking about the migration out of the cities and how that's impacting real estate right now. 54 of the 88 largest population U.S. cities reported population losses between 2020 and 2021. That's according to the Brookings Institute. By the end of July 2022, only 37 of the largest cities reported ongoing losses, but among them were Los Angeles, Portland, San Francisco, every major northeastern city from Philadelphia to Boston, we're still reporting ongoing losses. And we've seen over 2 million Americans relocate to the southern U.S., most from the north, according to from data from the U.S. Census Bureau. So, not just a move out of cities, but also kind of a regional trend here, where it does seem like some of the coastal cities, some of the northeast cities, are the ones that are getting hit the hardest and continue to bleed. Uh, you know, some people are calling this an urban doom loop. I think in the case of San Francisco, that's appropriate. But some of your thoughts on what seems to be a really, really major migratory trend impacting real estate in the States.
Well, I think you put your hand on the major reasons. Um, the migration out is caused by the cost of living in the cities, the crime that's occurring in the cities, and the taxes that are imposed by the cities themselves are forcing people and businesses to vacate. And they're looking for greener pastures, and they're finding them, and they're not afraid to pick up and move. And what's also contributing to that is the work at home uh, capability throughout the United States. Now, there's some return to the office required, but it's a few days a week in many cases. So, um, the return of the cities to health would take a major turnaround. It is a huge hit on the tax base, the revenue base, if you will, that the cities depend on: sales tax and employee tax and permits and all the rest of that. So it is a huge problem. And once that migration takes place, it's more difficult for people to pick up their things and move back to the city when they have that taste running through. So I don't see anything but continuation of the problem that you have just put your finger on, which of
Yeah,
course says investment's going to take place elsewhere, not in the cities.
yeah, and I think kind of to that point, there was a 2021 study by Howard Chernick at City University of New York's Hunter College, and that calculated a commercial real estate in 8 major cities, including Atlanta, Chicago, LA, New York, San Francisco's, accounts for 37% of property taxes. Um, so yeah, this could have a major impact. I think the figure for all cities so far was that $360 billion mark, although San Francisco is really at the top of that list of losses from 2020 to 2022. Uh, but I think what we're talking about is that potential for a doom loop cycle in some of these cities. And San Francisco seems well on its way, that once you start really taking the hit in lost revenues, you have to cut back in services, which then encourages more migration out, which then reduces services, which encourages more migration out. That just kind of becomes a self-perpetuating cycle at a certain point. And that there's some concern some cities might be, well headed in that direction. But I think as you point out, it does seem to be kind of cities in certain regions that are more on this path than others.
Yeah, and I think for the cities to recover, as you are pointing out, it takes an improvement in services. Uh, you have to get rid of crime. You have to get rid of the homeless problem. Those are service-oriented initiatives, and the traditional way of solving those kinds of problems is by floating bonds by the municipalities. Their ability to do that is going to be much more difficult in the future with these kinds of numbers that are being reported. So I don't think the financial markets are going to be available to these cities to help them clean up their problem. It's only a problem that gets worse. It's like a spinning top out of control, it seems to me.
Yeah, and I think it was a Merit Research Services that recently came out with a research note precisely on that, that the exodus of wealth continues from some of these larger cities. It's going to translate into lower municipal bond ratings, and that's going to increase financing costs, and that's just going to feed into this cycle. Um, on the positive side, which we kind of alluded to, um, of the top 10 markets attracting the most commercial real estate investment, 8 are in Florida, Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. And that's according to Urban Land Institute and Price Waterhouse Cooper. But we are seeing those cities and those areas that seem to have gotten things right, where they're managing the crime, where they have a higher quality of life. Those seem to be where the dollars are increasingly going. And I know us as a company, we've been pretty hot on the Sun Belt. That's an area where we've been attracted. We like doing business in business friendly metros and locations. Other people seem to be catching on to that trend. That does seem to be a trend of where the money's going. And just to kind of put it to you, and I kind of know where your answer is going to be this, kind of the two ways of approaching this is one is to play a rebound in these Northeast cities. And the other way is to play this as a trend that's going to continue and to really kind of focus more on the Sun Belt and more business friendly places as really being the future. I kind of think I know which side you come down on that, but why don't you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, there's no question. I come down on the Sun Belt continuing growth side. The rebound game is very risky, and some of the big real estate funds are playing in that game, and I think they've got a steep climb up the hill on that one. Whereas if you go where the towns are business friendly, tax friendly, and people friendly, that's where the home runs are going to be hit without the incumbent risks that I think shows up where the rebound, looking to do a rebound. Yeah, you're right. That's not for me.
I'm reminded of two old Wall Street sayings. One in referring to a stock or an asset that's on the negative bad trend, catching a falling knife. And I think you got a little bit of that going on in some of these, especially some of these cities that haven't reversed any of the policies that have caused these issues and problems. And
Yeah.
then the other saying that occurs to me is the trend is your friend. And I think the trend is very intact of both a move to suburbs over urban cores, and also the move to those urban cores that are doing well, tending to be in more business friendly states and areas, and locations that seem focused on policies that increase quality of life rather than detract from it. And I'm also, like you, much more comfortable playing that particular trend than trying to catch the falling knife of hopefully these guys will stop doing the things they've been doing that are reducing quality of life.
Here, here. We are in alignment.
Okay, so that's our advice. Play the trend and avoid catching falling knives.
That's it. Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Peter.